Hey folks, here I am back at 42 Gear Street with the wonderful, the enigmatic Mr. Thomas Blug. Welcome.
Hey, welcome.
Really great to have you here, and I know the background of what you've been doing in terms of playing. You've a major award winner, played huge stages all over the world, and used to work for 27 years for Hughes and Kettner. And then in 2014, you brought out your own amp, which was the Blug one, BluGuitar one, which is just up behind us.
Yeah.
In the just behind my head, and
the night
with the night, yes, and then more recently, very recently, in fact, because it's not even out yet, and I believe this is being released at the Guitar
Summit in a couple of weeks. This is the new AMP1 Iridium edition, and the story is quite simple. After the AMP1 Mercury, and I still found metal players, they deserve something that makes them as happy as myself with the silver one.
Yeah, for sure.
And I took it as a challenge. Also with having the contact with other YouTubers and players that tried the AMP1 and said, this is such a beautiful concept, but I want that jock,
that gent almost. Yeah. Cool.
So, and I took it as a challenge, and it took me 1.5 years doing modifications, getting it out to other players that actually play metal. I'm not a metal guy, I'm a blues rock player, and so they can feel the amp, and they can check him on tour or in the studio, give their feedback to me. And so I, first incarnation, second, third, and finally it's there and it works. And I'm very happy that this black one has a soul of its own.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And shall we hear that song?
Sure. Well, now I have a humbucker guitar, and as you need for metal, don't go with this. Don't play the Strat with single coils.
Henning is rubbing off on me this week. He really is. Yeah, I really think that Henning is having rather a bad influence on me this week. But so this is much more metal, and it's you've still got, I guess, the four separate channels,
and the kind of feature set. I expanded the feature set a little bit towards what the metal guys want and need. But basically, what we have is a nice clean tone. Especially voiced for humbuckers, so it's like sparkling highs.
Beautiful, yeah.
And I do have a reverb, even though they are not so keen on reverb, but it's a bit a more neutral reverb compared to the silver one.
Not so saturated.
Yeah. And that's the clean tone. I can dial in different clean tones which are a bit more mid-rangey or sparkling. So
what I should say is, which you can't see from the angle we've got, you might be able to see from this camera here, we've got some controls on the side here that allow us to tweak just certain elements permanently, like dip switches almost, but they're not, they're pots.
Yeah, they actually blend between like two tone stacks.
Yes.
Internally, I have one tone stack for one sound and another one on the other side.
Right.
And then this little trim pot kind of blends between the two. So
lovely feature, because that means that every guitarist can dial in their own expressive personal preference.
Right. I come from the big old Marshall history, and the Marshall guys, they go, I have a GMP, I have a GTM, I have this blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And the difference is basically tone controls and a few other things, but the tone controls make the major difference.
For sure.
And a slight character change is what makes the difference in the end. Okay, anyway, this is the clean. So this can be nice and clean and clean and cleaner. Okay, next channel
here. Sparkly, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, really nice.
And the next one here is the vintage. Let's bring in the metal gate.
Okay. Noise gate. So we've got. That's really good.
Yeah, tight.
Yeah.
Full gain, maybe a little boost, and boost all the way up. So
great for the modern rock sound as well, but
Right.
you've still got a little bit of that sort of 90s grungy type tone in there as well. It's very versatile, isn't it?
it is, and you know, I also learned that in metal, you know, there's so many different genres, you know.
Yeah.
And here's another channel with another tone. Okay, and the third one in the modern channel.
That's beefy.
Yeah, this has a mid kind of eh.
I hear that, yeah, that's more bottom endy.
Yeah.
Then you've just got that. That's scooped almost.
And this is. Okay, and another nice feature is I can use the reverb to make the metal gate soft. So if I engage the reverb, I can have my solo tone here. And it will not cut my note from ringing.
Okay.
And I go back without the reverb.
And it's cutting it. That's so useful, particularly I would say in the studio that's useful.
Absolutely, and also for live, if you can use the same channel, you know, as a solo sound, as a rhythm sound, so we have all the options. Another option here is the recording out on the Iridium edition.
Yeah. Let's see if we can tilt that up just a touch. So we've got a recording out.
Recording out, and this recording out is analog, but you know, especially the metal guys, they have their own IRs. They swear. You know,
yeah, of course.
Like, oh, this is my holy grey cabinet.
And I need my IR.
And so the internal speaker simulation can be switched off. So you know, this is all self-contained, but you know, if you have your favorite IRs, use one of those cab loaders,
like the M cab behind, cab M rather, the two-note thing. Absolutely.
And you can have your personal preferenced cabinet, still using this output.
So the thing for me here is that this is not restricted to stage size, because we're not talking about the sort of smaller venue gig, because then you can go straight through the cab as you can with the built-in amplifier. And then when you go into bigger, like you do, playing in stadiums, you can feed that out to an IR into the main board and in a monitor, all that good stuff. Yeah,
and you can have both simultaneously. So you have if you want to have a cabinet like this on stage, fine. If you want to have just in ear, you use direct out. You have all the options. I mean, that's, you know, I've been on different stages, different sizes, from very small clubs up to, you know, mega sizes. So there are solutions for any situation.
Absolutely.
And that's the Iridium edition now for the metal guys, because they have the same problems like me as a classic rock guy. You know, touring is expensive, and if you once have to fly your amplifier with, I don't know, 30, 40 pounds,
this can go in your suitcase.
Yeah, and this is. You are all sorted with this and your guitar, and so you are safe because you know the amp, you know the direct out, and then if you have a rental cabinet, it's fine. So that's the way a lot of professional players actually work today. And of course there is still the Bon Jovis of this, which have trucks and a lot of gear, but I think...
But even they now are going through things like XFX and using modelling. This isn't modelling. No. This is proper tubes. This has got a Russian nano tube in it.
Exactly.
And we've got a full... is this 100 or is it more than 100?
It's actually more than 100. It is 180 watts.
180 watts.
180 watts.
In a nanotube, Russian nanotube, this size.
This size. And we never had a single failure of this tube in the whole history of BluGuitar.
So you're saying you buy this once and it'll outlast us?
Absolutely. Fantastic. No, I would sign it off. This was used on Russian missiles.
Right.
Yeah, so...
Not this particular one. No, absolutely. And I think the key thing is that, which you've alluded to before, is that the main driver, the main power amp stage really does need to be tube, and you get that lovely response and the tonal response.
Yeah, that's for me so important that it still feels like a real tube amp.
Yeah.
You know, there's some great stuff out there that sounds good,
Yeah.
but it doesn't feel, and especially when you're in a band context with a real live drummer,
Yeah.
and you're not playing in-ears, you play, you know, against a snare drum that's hitting hard.
Yeah.
The amp has
It's got to cut through.
cut through.
Yeah.
And this is on that level.
Yeah, my friend back in England plays this live. He's brought it round, and I've played not this particular model, obviously the Amp 1.
Yeah, yeah.
And he that's all he uses, a tuba 12, that on his pedal board,
Yeah.
and it absolutely cuts through the mix perfectly. I know that's a lot to do with EQ, but again, there's also the headroom in the amp and the
Yeah.
response from the speakers. I think you've thought about everything. I really do.
Well, my story is very simple. You know, I've been in the industry for 30, 40 years, whatever. And I came to the point where I personally have all the tube amps that I ever wanted.
Right.
You know, I collect my vintage gear for decades,
Yeah.
and I modded them for myself, so I'm sorted.
Yeah.
And then my reality is I quit the touring business with the big bands because of I want to do my own music.
Right.
And then, of course, you end up playing smaller clubs.
Of course.
And then the reality is, do I want to have a van and a stack of 4x12s
Yeah.
and be, totally tired
As
before
much fun as it is, and also our backs get...
Yeah, I've been there too. And so I came up with the idea, let's use all my knowledge that I gathered and gained over this, what I've ever done,
Yeah.
and use that and to put it in a new
put it
format.
into this technology
Right.
to give to everybody else. Can I say, on behalf of everybody out there that's benefited from your development of this, because I know there's more than just my friend, there's thousands of these out there, thank you very much for what you're doing for the guitar community. And also thank you very, very much for coming on my channel's day from here at 42 Gear Street.
Big pleasure.
It's been a joy, my friend, really
Yeah.
has. And I look forward to more contact and content from Blug Guitar and from Thomas in the future. If you've enjoyed this, please, please, please give it a thumbs up, because this thing sounds awesome. And it is, in the words of Henning, metal! And if you haven't subscribed yet, can't hurt to click that. And if you do, click the bell icon as well. I upload every Tuesday and Friday, and I'll be back with the best content I can just as soon as I can from both here at 42 Gear Street and also my Fretted Fridays and everything else that we do. And as always, my good friends, and Thomas, of course, take good care.
Absolutely. See ya.